Today, we're going to talk about the automobile that began its journey as a luxury vehicle and transformed into one of the main powerhouses in the world of motor racing. This vehicle was so extraordinary that it earned the nickname Godzilla, referencing the gigantic monster that destroyed cities. What happened was that, in the late 1990s, with the rise of the JDM, Japanese domestic market, culture, automotive enthusiasts' rooms were decorated with posters of these impressive machines. In these posters, models like the Toyota Supra, Honda Civic, and Mitsubishi Eclipse could be spotted. However, there was one car that stood out among all, a car that proved invincible, defeating any opponent that dared to challenge it. Moreover, this automobile played a crucial role in the recovery of an automotive company, elevating its status to one of the most respected in the global scene. This car is known as the Nissan GT-R R32. Today, you will learn everything about the day Nissan made history when creating one of the most iconic automobiles of all time. But before that, it's important to understand a bit about its historical journey. Chapter 1: The History. When we talk about the GT-R, one name stands out: Shinichiro Sakurai. This man was responsible for the first Skyline ever produced in history. After graduating from Yokohama National University, he worked for the Shimizu Corporation. In 1952, he joined Prince Motors as a chassis engineer, gaining great respect within the company. After a visit to Europe and the opportunity to see Formula One cars in person, he was tasked with creating the brand's first sports car. This car was the 2000 GT Skyline, a beautiful machine, don't get me wrong. Indeed, it was a good machine for its time, an innovation totally different from what other brands were doing. However, being a perfectionist, he knew he could go further. So, in 1969, he created the first GT-R, a beautiful four-door sedan with an inline-six engine, with a 2-liter capacity, which was nicknamed Hakusuka. This was the car, something entirely different from what the brand had done before. But why was it so special? Chapter 2: The Emergence. Its distinctiveness was hidden beneath the hood. What truly set it apart was its engine, borrowed from the iconic Prince R380, a racing car from Prince Motors, essentially the Japanese version of the GT40. However, instead of being built to surpass Ferrari at Le Mans, it was designed to challenge Porsche in the Japanese Grand Prix. Placing the engine of a racing car into a street car was a bold and undeniable statement that they were not here to play around. In February 1969, a legend was born. The name of the legend? GT-R. It came into this world as the iconic PGC-10 Skyline 2000 GT-R. GT stood for Gran Turismo, and R, race. The name was chosen to win, and it was destined to do so. At least, that was the somewhat modest description this car received in its 50-year special. This phrase illustrates well the spirit of that company at that specific moment. And it aligns with its name because back then, there simply were no comparable sports sedans. Thanks to its independently mounted engine and suspension, this vehicle was truly overwhelming, winning 49 races. With so many victories, Sakurai knew he had found the formula for success. He was on the right track: a small car with a big engine, a dangerous and lethal combination. In 1971, the GT-R Coupe was launched, now a bit smaller, wider, and with a more aggressive design. This was the true Japanese sports car. Although it was a success, it failed in terms of sales, as only 197 units of this machine were produced. But, to be fair, the blame was not on it. The blame was on the oil crisis that affected the entire automotive market, and Nissan was no exception. The situation remained the same in 1984. Nissan was suffering considerably from the crisis and simply couldn't sell cars anymore, let alone win races. Its models were becoming outdated, and the skyline was no longer what it used to be. It was as if it no longer deserved to bear the GTR emblem. Chapter 3: Turning Point. In 1985, a bold new president, ready to explore uncharted territories, took the reins of the company. Unlike taking conventional measures such as cutting expenses or withdrawing the brand from racing, he recognized that Nissan's path to success involved an improvement in its reputation. Instead of lingering in the realm of dull cars, he decided it was time to achieve victory and return to the podiums of competitions. This was essential for the brand to regain its place at the forefront of the public's mind. Thus, he initiated the project called Project 90, with P paying homage to Princess Motors. The goal was clear: create the best car in the world by 1990. It was at this point that Nissan began its turnaround and set out to make history. In the same year, a high-performance division called Nismo was created. Under the leadership of a legendary engineer who had been involved with the brand since 1958, Nissan regained its hunger for victory, but this time in the Japanese Touring Car Championship. This championship, held in Japan, was one of the most exciting competitions of the time, where brands like BMW, Ford, Ferrari, Porsche, and, of course, Nissan fiercely competed. In the 60s, Nissan shone with the PGC-10 Skyline, and in the 70s, with the Skyline DR30, an incredible red car with a giant spoiler. In 1985, the competition came to life with the Group A category, which required street cars to meet homologation requirements to compete. The fascinating aspect was that the cars in the races could be found in enthusiasts' garages, with some modifications, of course. Having a Group A championship-winning car in the Japanese Touring Car Championship was a significant draw for buyers. However, there was a problem: the GTR was just a distant memory. It had been a long time since Nissan had launched something significant, and the last highly successful car, the Skyline DR30 with its massive spoilers and wide body, needed to be stripped of those features to compete in Group A and resemble production cars as much as possible. Unfortunately, without these elements, the DR30 couldn't keep up with the competition. In 1986, Nissan introduced the R31 to face these challenges. Although it wasn't the most aesthetically appealing car, it became the champion of the Japanese Touring Car Championship that year, bringing a taste of victory to the brand that had been absent for a long time. However, as the championship gained prominence and became more competitive, brands from around the world entered the fray, and fewer Japanese drivers graced the podium each season. The day arrived when no Japanese drivers were on the podium of the Japanese Championship. Realizing this situation, Nissan decided it was time to revitalize Project 90. It was time to show the world its true capabilities. In the mid-90s, the brand stood out with technological advancements that culminated in the birth of the Nissan Mid-4, a car that drew size with its 250 horsepower, mid-engine, and all-wheel drive. Its presentation at the Frankfurt Motor Show in 1985 was a great success. Although acclaimed, the Mid-4 did not reach mass production. Nissan chose to use its innovative all-wheel drive system and four-wheel steering system in another car. The decision was clear: instead of creating another Skyline, it was time to resurrect the legendary GTR acronym, a symbol of Gran Turismo racing. Chapter 4 is the legendary Nissan GTR R32. The story of this iconic car begins with the birth of the legendary Nissan GTR R32. It emerged with the purpose of competing in the Group A of the Japanese Championship. Under the hood was an inline-six engine with a capacity of 2.6 liters, producing 320 horsepower factory-fitted. On the tracks, this number jumped to 600 to 800 horsepower. Within the constraints imposed by Group A, Nissan was aware that the 2.6-liter engine was the largest they could use in their vehicle. Thus, the relentless pursuit of lightness was reflected in its stripped-down and simplified interior. The primary focus was on performance and speed, relegating comfort and design to a secondary position. For automotive enthusiasts, the GT-R R32 was a true work of art. Despite its simple design, it exhibited a unique beauty. Behind this simplicity was a hidden weapon, the Atessa ETS system, a Nissan innovation developed to enhance four-wheel traction. The history of this system is fascinating. Inspired by the legendary Porsche 959, Nissan engineers acquired and meticulously disassembled the German vehicle, unraveling crucial secrets. The introduction of a hydraulic clutch was one of the key innovations. However, unlike the 959, which directed force always to the front wheels, the GT-R R32's all-wheel drive system transferred force to the front wheels only when the rear wheels lost grip. G-force sensors and precisely tuned computers controlled this distribution, providing exceptional grip in curves. While the engine of the GT-R R32 received much attention, its true crown jewel was the Atessa system. This unexpected combination of power, lightness, and technology proved dominant on the racetrack. In the 90s, the GT-R made its debut in competitions, winning all 29 Group A races between 1990 and 1993. It not only won but also occupied the entire podium. Driving this car was like using a hack in the competition. These results cemented Nissan as the undisputed leader in Japan, surpassing Italian, American, and German brands that traditionally dominated racing. However, the GT-R was not limited to Group A. In 1991, it challenged the 24 Hours of Le Mans and, to the surprise of many, emerged as the winner. Furthermore, in 1992, it set a new record of 8 minutes and 22 seconds on the legendary track. But it was its performance in Australia that earned it the nickname Godzilla. At that time, the Godzilla movie was gaining significant global notoriety, considered an icon of Japan to the world. Therefore, when the GT-R R32 landed in Australia and conquered everything in its path, it was no surprise that it gained this nickname. After all, what name would be more fitting for a car that dominated like the Japanese monster that melted cities and caused destruction? This car was so formidable that other competitors simply couldn't keep up with it.